Circle 8.
Circle 8.
Circle 8.
Welcome to Circle 8.
Logotherapy. Definition. It is a psychotherapeutic intervention that focuses on the approach of finding meaning in an experiential situation as the basis, aim, and direction of the healing process. Let me elaborate. The concept of healing is anchored on the human capacity for transcendence in a particular problematic existential encounter, the final effect of which is fulfillment in living. The transcendence is achieved by the individual through his ability to find meaning in such an encounter. When to apply, this technique is most effective in situations that involve illness that is possessed with the nature of noogenic neurosis. We'll define that in the end. Meaning, it's an experiential affliction characterized by any or all of the following, among others. Number 1, debilitating despair. Number 2, absence of inspiration. Number 3, self-destructive behaviors. Number 4, seemingly senseless suffering. Number 5, personal loss. Number 6, motivational deficiency on the cognitive, behavioral, and affective level not caused by somatic or physical sources. In general, the characteristics mentioned pictures a person who has lost meaning in life. Fundamental tenets of logotherapy. That which does not kill you will make you stronger. There is no suffering that the human spirit cannot conquer. If we know the whys, we will know every how. It is not the problem that counts, but your attitude towards a problem. Suffering is the only achievement that no one would ever envy. Happiness is like gas. No matter how small it is, it could fill the room. As we erect a statue of liberty in the East Coast, we also need to erect a statue of responsibility on the West Coast. Responsibility is the willingness to live your life in the same way that you have lived it. Meaning is never absent. It only needs to be discovered. The inspiration of love transcends beyond the grave. To err is human. To forgive, more human. Every time you ask life of what it could give or what it could offer to you, life is asking you back the same questions. Vae victus. Woe to the vanquished. Success means not fulfillment, nor failure, not even despair. There is nothing in the world that would so effectively help one to survive even the worst conditions as the knowledge that there is a meaning in one's life. The issue of the meaning of life. The meaning of life differs from man to man, from day to day. In logotherapy, therefore, what matters is not the meaning of life in general, but rather the specific meaning of a person's life at the given moment. Now, let's define some terms. Existential vacuum, the state of present society as described by Frankl, wherein there is a substantial lack of the will to meaning, thus resulting for the individual to doing what others are doing, which is conformity, and or to doing what matters are telling the person. The existential vacuum manifests itself in the state of boredom. Existential frustration. This situation exists when the will to meaning of a person does not achieve its role. Noogenic neurosis. The existential state as experienced by the person with the characteristic lack of meaning, will to meaning. The fundamental human capacity or drive to find meaning in one's own experience. Existential neurosis. a characteristic preoccupation to the thought that life has no meaning at all. Sources of meaning: number 1, work; 2, love; and 3, suffering. Stages of suffering encounter: number 1, shock; stage 2, apathy; stage 3, depersonalization. Specific techniques used by the logotherapist: number 1, listening; number 2, clarifications directed to logotherapeutic objectives; number 3, group sharing; number 4, logodrama; number 5, story analogies. The logotherapist is not a painter, but an ophthalmologist. He does not impose the meaning. He only helps the client to see clearly and therefore finds the meaning for himself. It concerns with the illness of the mind, the noogenic neurosis. To be sure, a logotherapist cannot tell a patient what the meaning is, but he at least can show that there is meaning in life. That is available to everyone, and even more, that life retains its meaning under any conditions. It remains meaningful literally up to its last moment, up to one's last breath. Logotherapy principles. Excerpts from Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, Washington Square Press, 1984. The will to meaning. Man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life, and not a secondary rationalization of instinctual drives. This meaning is unique and specific in that it must and can be fulfilled by him alone. Only then does it achieve a significance which will satisfy his own will to meaning. There are some authors who contend that meanings and values are nothing but defense mechanisms, reaction formations, and sublimations. But as for myself, says Frankl, I would not be willing to live merely for the sake of my reaction formations. Man, however, is able to live and even die for the sake of his ideals and values. Existential frustration. Man's will to meaning can also be frustrated, in which case logotherapy speaks of existential frustration. The term existential may be used in 3 ways to refer to, number 1, existence itself. That is the specifically human mode of being. Number 2, the meaning of existence. And number 3, the striving to find a concrete meaning in personal existence. That is, say, the will to meaning. Existential frustration can also result in neurosis. This type of neurosis, logotherapy has coined the term noogenic neurosis, in contrast to neurosis in traditional sense of the word, that is, psychogenic neurosis. Noogenic neuroses have their origins not in the psychological, but rather in the noogical, from the Greek word nous, meaning mind, dimension of human existence. This is another logotherapeutic term, which denotes anything pertaining to the specifically human dimension. Noogenic neurosis. Noogenic neuroses do not emerge from conflicts between drives and instincts, but rather from existential problems. Among such problems, the frustration of the will to meaning plays a large role. It is obvious that in noogenic cases, the appropriate and adequate therapy is not psychotherapy in general, but rather logotherapy, a therapy that is which dares to enter the specifically human dimension. Logotherapy regards its assignment as that of assisting the patient to find meaning in his life, inasmuch as logotherapy makes him aware of the hidden logos of his existence. It is an analytical process. To this extent, logotherapy resembles psychoanalysis. However, in logotherapy's attempt to make something conscious again, does not restrict its activity to instinctual facts within the individual's unconscious, but also cares for the existential realities, such as the potential meaning of his existence to be fulfilled, as well as his will to meaning. Any analysis, however, even when it refrains from including the noological dimension in its therapeutic process, tries to make the patient aware of what he actually longs for in the depth of his being. Logotherapy deviates from psychoanalysis insofar as it considers man a being whose main concern consists in fulfilling a meaning rather than in the mere gratification and satisfaction of drives and instincts, or in the mere adaptation and adjustment to society and environment. Neurodynamics. To be sure, man's search for meaning may arouse inner tension rather than inner equilibrium. However, precisely, such tension is an indispensable prerequisite of mental health. There is nothing in the world, says Frankl, venture to say that would so effectively help one to survive even the worst conditions as the knowledge that there is a meaning in one's life. There is much wisdom in the words of Nietzsche. He who has a why to live for can bear anyhow. I, says Frankl, can see in these words a motto which holds true for any psychotherapy. The meaning of life. The meaning of life differs from man to man, from day to day and from hour to hour. What matters, therefore, is not the meaning of life in general, but rather the specific meaning of a person's life at a given moment. To put the question in general terms would be comparable to the question posed to a chess champion. Tell me, master, what is the best move in the world? There is simply no such thing as best or even a good move apart from a particular situation in a game and the particular personality of one's opponent. The same holds for human existence. One should not search for an abstract meaning of life. Everyone has his own specific vocation or mission in life to carry out a concrete assignment which demands fulfillment. Therein, he cannot be replaced, nor can his life be repeated. Thus, everyone's task is as unique as his specific opportunity to implement it. As each situation in life represents a challenge to man and presents a problem for him to solve, the question of the meaning of life may actually be reversed. Ultimately, man should not ask what the meaning of life is, but rather he must recognize that it is he who is asked. In a word, each man is questioned by life, and he can only answer to life by answering his own life. To life, he can only respond by being responsible. Thus, logotherapy sees in responsibleness the very essence of human existence. The essence of existence. The emphasis in responsibleness is reflected in the categorical imperative of logotherapy, which is, live as if you were living already for the second time, and as if you had acted the first time as wrongly as you are about to act now. It seems to me, Frankl said, there is nothing which would stimulate a man's sense of responsibleness more than this axiom, which invites him to imagine first that the present is past, and second, that the past may yet be changed and amended. Such a precept confronts him with life's finiteness, as well as the finality of what he makes out of both his life and himself. Logotherapy tries to make the patient fully aware of his own responsibleness. Therefore, it must leave him to the option of what, or to whom he understands himself to be responsible. That is why a logotherapist is the least tempted of all psychotherapists to impose value judgment in his patients, for he will never permit the patient to pass to the doctor the responsibility of judging. It is, therefore, up to the patient to decide whether he should interpret his life task as being responsible to the society or to his own concerns. There are people, however, who did not interpret their own lives merely in terms of tasks assigned to them, but also in terms of the taskmaster who assigned them. Logotherapy is neither teaching nor preaching. It is far removed from logical reasoning, as it is from moral exhortation. To put it figuratively, the role played by a logotherapist is that of an eye specialist rather than that of a painter. A painter tries to convey to us a picture of the world as he sees it. An ophthalmologist tries to enable us to see the worlds as they are. The logotherapist consists of widening and broadening the visual field of the patient so that the whole spectrum of potential meaning becomes conscious and visible to them. By declaring that man is responsible and must actualize the potential meaning of his life, I, Frankl said, wish to stress that the true meaning of life is to be discovered in the world rather than within man or his own psyche, as though it were a closed system. I, said Frankl, had termed his constitutive characteristic the self-transcendence of human existence. It denotes the fact that being human always points and is directed to something or someone other than oneself, be it a meaning to fulfill or another human being to encounter. The more one forgets himself by giving himself a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he is, and the more he actualizes himself. What is called self-actualization is not an unattainable aim at all, for the simple reason that the more one would strive for it, self-actualization is possible only as a side effect of self-transcendence. Thus far, we have shown that meaning of life always changes, but that it never ceases to be. According to logotherapy, we can discover this meaning in life in 3 different ways. Number 1, by creating a work or doing a deed. Number 2, by experiencing something or encountering someone. Number 3, and by the attitude we take towards unavoidable suffering. The first, the way to achievement or accomplishment, is quite obvious. The second and third need further elaboration. The second way of finding a meaning of life is by experiencing something, such as goodness, truth, and beauty, by experiencing nature and culture, or last but not least, experiencing another human being in his very uniqueness by loving him. Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. No one can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being unless he loves him. By his love, he is enabled to see the essential traits and features in the beloved person. And even more, he sees that which is potential in him, which is not yet actualized, but yet ought to be actualized. Furthermore, by his love, the loving person enables the beloved person to actualize his potentialities by making him aware of what he can be and of what he should become. He makes these potentialities come true. In logotherapy, love is not interpreted as a mere epiphenomenon, a phenomenon that occurs as a result of a primary phenomenon of sexual drives and instincts in a sense of a so-called sublimation. Love is a primary phenomenon as sex. Normally, sex is a mode of expression of love. Sex is justified, even sanctified as soon as, but only as long as it is a vehicle of love. Thus, love is not understood as a mere side effect of sex. Rather, sex is a way of expressing the experience of that ultimate togetherness which is called love. The third way of finding meaning in life is through suffering. We must never forget that we may also find meaning in life even when confronted with a hopeless situation. When facing a fate that cannot be changed, for what matters is to bear witness to the uniquely human potential at its best, which is to transform a personal tragedy into a triumph, to turn one's predicament into a human achievement when we are no longer able to change the situation. Just think of an incurable disease such as inoperable cancer. We are challenged to change ourselves.